What's going on, guys? Rusty with GritShift. So today we're going to be talking about a new product. We're going to give a brief overview first of why you might want to upgrade, why we're not using titanium, and what this is going to do for you. So let's get right into it. Today we're going to be talking about your swing arm bolt and your rear axle. Two things that most people don't see as an issue. Most people rock the stock ones for the life of the bike and don't think much about it. I'm going to show you what's happened to mine in the first, 100 miles or so. We're going to talk about why you should probably upgrade your swing arm bolt and your rear wheel axle, as well as why we don't use titanium. So let's go in reverse. We'll start with the last point and then work back towards the front, and then we'll go more detail. So we have spec'd ours out with Chromoly, something that not a lot of people do, but something we really think is going to be a lot stronger and last a lot longer for our applications. So Chromoly is a little bit different of a steel blend. It's got some molybdenum and some BA in it. And what that does is basically it has similar strength properties of titanium, but not as much hardness as titanium. So what does that mean? Well, that means it's going to hold almost the same tensile strength, but instead of it being very brittle because it's so hard, it's going to have more flex to it. You're going to be able to bend it without shattering. We do see on titanium quite a bit. If you over torque a bolt, it will straight shatter in your face. It happens. If you take a large impact because of how hard brittle it is, it will bend slightly, but right after that slight bend is snapping. We do not want to see anybody get taken out or hurt from a snapped piece of hardware. Never a good thing to hear. So we are moving towards Chromoly, which is going to be better for those big load forces. Those big load forces may bend something, but if you happen to exceed the strength of Chromoly, it will bend and bend for a much longer time before it snaps versus titanium. So we're staying away from titanium. Most people will think, well, titanium parts are all lighter. It's not really true. It's actually quite a bit more dense of a material, but most people can make parts lighter by hollowing it out and removing more strength from the product. So you're kind of playing devil's advocate there. It's more dense, so you can use less material, but it's not going to be as strong long term. So it's a balancing act there. It's also quite a bit stiffer than some other materials, so you sometimes want that stiffness. If you know anything about these Surons, the E-Rides, the Talarias, a lot of those frames have quite a bit of flex in them. Putting something super brittle in something that is designed to flex isn't necessarily the smartest idea. Your swing arm can flex quite a bit left to right while you're riding. Having a very brittle axle in there, when something's unevenly flexing, it's ultimately not going to lead to the best situation. So Chromoly it is. Now we're going to touch on first the stock pieces of hardware. Why we don't think you should be riding on those long term, and some of the issues you may be having on one of your e-bikes, say with a jack shaft, that you may not be aware of or know why it continuously happens. So we're going to get it straight into that stuff. This is where we're going to start going detailed, and we're going to start with our swing arm bolt. This is the stock swing arm bolt from a Pro SS. It has probably about 100 miles on it. Not too many. If I put this on a straight edge here, this jack shaft is probably bent about 4 mils from being true flat. Pretty bad bend in this one. This has only been ridden about 100 miles. It really hasn't been cased on anything too big. Nothing that's blown my hands off, blown my feet off the foot pads, anything like that. Everything I've been able to ride away just fine with no real remarks about it. But you can see it has exceeded the strength of this. What unfortunately happens if I keep riding on this is two things. Well, now that this is bent, what happens is wherever it's bent at, this should be a straight plane through to through from the frame. This is now bent. Now this jack shaft is going to sit a little bit crooked based upon where that bend is. And when that happens, you're going to notice your jack shaft is basically changing its position. If I spin this around while my jack shaft is installed, one side is kind of doing this rotation around the center hub. And what happens is that means that your sprockets are no longer aligned. Doesn't matter how good you are and how much you try, your jack shaft sprockets are going to be sitting something like this, which is going to affect your primary drive wear patterns as well as your rear chain and sprocket wear patterns. So really unfortunate. Not a lot of people realize that. It does affect your wear patterns, and if you don't catch it, the second part is your bearings are going to start going. You don't have a straight axle through this, you're going to unevenly load one side of the bearings. It's going to basically try to think about circular hole, putting something that's supposed to fit that diameter at an angle. You're side loading one of the sides of that bearing. So over time, it is also going to lead to premature bearing failure. If you ride a Sur-on, it's probably one of the reasons why your jack shaft bearings fail as quick as they do. It's probably one of the most unnoticed reasons. Quick thing I can show you guys to be able to identify if it's bent. Take your swing arm bolt, your axle, put it on a flat surface, look sideways to it, and you're going to be able to visibly see the lift from it. And that's not with any tools or anything. Any flat surface you can do with this. Glass is really good. Typically glass is a very good flat edge. So that gets into kind of some of the common issues we see with the stock hardware. Now we're going to talk about the Chromoly upgrades. Chromoly is virtually the same strength as titanium. There's a little bit of different properties. We like the fact that it's going to flex and bend more than titanium, which is going to give us quite a bit more confidence if we do overdo it. Second thing to note is it's got similar resistance as far as rust and corrosion. Not as good as titanium. I will say titanium is a little bit better for corrosion resistance, but you shouldn't be getting a bunch of excess water in here with the bearings and the seals that are on your axles and your swing arm bolt. But something to note. Some things we changed on this compared to stock are we'll call it a double hex pattern on the end of each of the items. So they have an outer hex for a socket and an inner hex for an Allen. So that way, even if you strip the Allen or you strip the outer hex, you're still going to be able to remove it. You have kind of a double duty there. You're still going to be able to get them out even if you way over torqued them or corrosion or anything like that. Second thing is we've added an indentation on the end of each of them. This indentation is just because if you look at any of the stock pieces of hardware or aftermarket hardware, they're all kind of flat or mushroomed. If they start to get bent or seized, very, very challenging to get them out without risking hitting the threads. So we've added something there so that way you can use a pick and tap it out without risking your threads or walking off or anything. Little details like that matter, especially if you wrench on a lot of bikes. It's very annoying trying to worry about that slipping and so on. So, kind of done a brief overview. Why we're not using titanium, why we're using Chromoly, why we think Chromoly is better, and also some of the things you may be having issues with from a stock axle if you don't notice it. If you guys have any questions, please let us know. We will have these live for pre-order soon. Check it out.